A serious and detailed analysis where your voice matters. Q1 2019 of Star Citizen. What we can expect, what we like, what we don't. Coming up after these messages. Today's video has been brought to you by the generous patrons of the games who make continued content on the games possible. The game's patrons enjoy monthly giveaways like Steam gift cards, Star Citizen packages, and any game that you want giveaways. Please consider donating just $1 if in any way you enjoyed the game's content. Thank you. First off, my community's awesome. Thank you so much for wishing me a happy birthday. I had a crazy one, still having a crazy one. My mother went to the hospital for pancreatitis. She's in really bad shape. So thank you for all the prayers for her as well. I think I've operated on about an hour of sleep within the past 48 hours. I'm just squeezing this in, and I want to go over these details before I got to head back out to the hospital. So thank you so much for everybody who's actually been just supporting me. It's you know, you guys have actually pulled me through what was a shitty birthday and made it into a great one just from all the well wishes. So thank you so much. Now let's get into the details of Star Citizen. Why Q1 DG and not the entire year? Well, first off, I don't think it's very helpful for people like Board Gamer who put out the entire year and like, this is what's happening. We already know what to expect from SIG. I'm not going to give you like regurgitated news. We can see it in the roadmap, but we don't know exactly what is actually going to be completed, and that's why I like to dissect these. And I think we're going to do this every quarter. We're going to look into the actual details of what's coming out in the quarter. We know that SIG has pushed back features into other patches, so why go over the entire year? Let's just hit these particular quarters. I think that's much better than what Board Gamer offers, and I want to hear from the community as well, because I think the community feedback is very important to hear what it is that you like versus what you don't like, and what you want to see versus what you don't want to see. I think that information is very helpful to the devs, and what they'll end up doing perhaps is passing along this information so that they can see exactly what it is that the gamer base thinks is important versus unimportant. This is a very important thing, to get this voice out there so that they can see it. So please share this particular video and let's get into these details. We'll also be going into Squadron 42 features in Q1, because I believe what we're going to see is more focus into detailed areas as they have the new investors, and the focus we know is going to be on Squadron 42 this year. And it's interesting to see the comparison between what is on the Squadron 42 map versus what is on the PU map. We'll be going back and forth on each particular feature to see what the differences are. So first things first, in the character column, we have DNA face customization. Now the point of this particular feature is to make your character look different than anybody else. They're not only going to do this on the player side, they're also going to do it on the NPC side, so that every player character and every NPC character look completely different and unique. While I think this is really cool, I don't think it's something that demands this kind of attention right now for 3.5. My particular view right now is I don't mind that the NPCs are looking like, yes, it's repetitious, yes, every once in a while it gets to you, and the fact that I can't make my character look exactly the way I want it, it's not such a big deal to me right now. I don't know what you guys have to say. What do you guys think about that? Put that in the comments down below. Now what you'll notice is sometimes they cross-reference features from the PU roadmap to the Squadron 42 roadmap, like the DNA face customization, for instance. The Squadron 42 side of things, it looks like the advocacy armor, and the advocacy plays a very important role in the story of Squadron 42, so it makes sense that this is in Q1. So you see they're looking on the actual appearance of the advocacy. Now the advocacy was a special police force. Back in 2523, the advocacy was formed when the United Nations of Earth transformed into the United Planets of Earth. So it was a government change, and the advocacy was created as kind of like this police force. Kind of reminds me of Judge Dredd type law enforcement agents. So okay, I can see how that's kind of important for Squadron 42 to get this down, to get the look down, so I get that. What's next on the PU side? Oh yes, the big one, playable female characters. We all know that Twerk got labeled a social justice warrior for speaking out for Star Citizen females everywhere, which, you know what, I think that females should be in the game. I mean, like, really, females should have been in the game a long time ago. Regardless, a lot of us look at it and we say it's not a huge deal, but you know, when you're dealing with like Christy, for instance, my girlfriend, who says, hey, why can't I pick a female character? I really have no response to that other than you know, it's coming soon TM. So I'm glad to see that female characters will be in Q1. It looks like they're very focused on that. I know Sandy was pushing Chris on it, having fun with him on a lot of the Around the Verse episodes. I really actually dug that kind of commentary. And that wraps up the character side of 3.5 Q1. Let's go over to the Squadron 42 map and wrap that up as well. Now, in addition to the advocacy, which we had already mentioned, and the DNA face customization, it looks like they have one more particular feature that they want to put in the characters column. Let's check it out. This is interesting that they actually haven't nailed this down yet. It's surprising to me. Concepting, creation, and implementation of the naval gunner outfit and the loadouts for the characters that require it. I'm really shocked that they have not gotten this down yet. I think this is one of the main reasons why they're focusing on Squadron 42, because there's a lot of things that aren't done, and it's a little bit of an eye-opener to see these particular details that are not out yet. So I'm a little bit upset, but I will take it with a grain of salt. And that finishes up the character column in the Squadron 42 map. Let's go back over to the PU map. Okay, our next tab here are the locations. So the first thing we have here is ArcCorp Planet. We know we have been talking about on the ATV review how excited I am for ArcCorp to come out, but interesting little side note here at the very bottom, and you can see it says this feature is dependent upon implementation of object container streaming. Now, portions of OCS are currently out, but they're talking about the completion of OCS, both client and server side. Is very important for them to get this down, because without it, they're not going to be able to create ArcCorp. It's a really interesting look into what's happening in the design phase when it comes to creating ArcCorp. There's going to be so many buildings. We said this, like the loading of the amount of buildings, the assets that ArcCorp's going to have is going to be ridiculous. It's going to be tremendous. So OCS has to be pristine before ArcCorp can even be finished. And I find it interesting that there is that correlation. It makes complete sense to me. And so this is a very big deal. It's important to read the details. It sheds a lot of light on what's happening inside SIG. ArcCorp's moon Lyria, interestingly enough, also OCS needed. ArcCorp's moon Wallace, so both moons of ArcCorp, and the landing zone. And we can see that there are only 13 of 121 tasks completed. I think what you're going to find is a big slowdown. What I originally expected was that they're going to pump out locations, but because of this shift of investor money being put into SIG, I think what's happening is you're seeing the shift being put into Squadron 42, which I'm not upset about. I actually think that's important for them to nail down Squadron 42 first. But what we can see is that the progress on a lot of the stuff on the PU side is going to be a lot slower than I originally expected. So OCS being very important for ArcCorp, it makes a lot of sense. I think they're going to have a lot of issues bringing ArcCorp out in Q1 because of the amount of assets of the particular planet. This might be something that you could see being pushed back to Q2 very easily. But if they get it out on Q1, that would be a major accomplishment for SIG. So I'm rooting for them that they get ArcCorp out on Q1 release of 3.5. Interesting, on the Squadron 42 roadmap, there's no locations tab. What I can extrapolate from this, and I looked in the other columns as well to see if there's any locations tabs, and there were not at this particular point in time. What I can extrapolate, there aren't many locations because I think most of the story is going to happen via space, kind of like Wing Commander, where you're just kind of traveling around different systems, and the instances that you're in don't require you to be in any particular locations that are as important as the PU. But we shall see as time continues to develop here. We'll keep on that for the next particular Q2 review. I just find that really, again, this is good to go over these details. It sheds a lot of light into what's happening behind the scenes. Now let's go back over to the PU roadmap. And this doesn't show as much in the regards of what is being worked on in the PU as it does on the Squadron 42 roadmap side. FPS Stealth version 2. NPC behaviors will allow the player to approach an encounter using stealth tactics. I don't know if that's actually that important. Kind of cool. Don't think it's too important. You know, I mean, really just the combat in itself is a little clunky when it comes to FPS. So having like stealth is not something that I deem that's really that important for being in 3.5 or something they should really focus on right now. But, you know, tell me what you guys think. Quantum and strafing with NPC AI pilots improving. We know that it needs a touch of improvement. I am glad to see this particular update put into 3.5. I think they'll be able to get this done. Now this is where it gets interesting because we talked about how important it was for AI because of the last ATV review we did where Chris actually admitted that AI was not where it was supposed to be, that they actually were looking to hire people to bring in AI. I think AI is a huge issue along with the network bind culling. I think these are the two things in 2019 that are core, that are important, that they jump over these hurdles, that they actually succeed in accomplishing these tasks. Those are the two important things. So when people ask me like what's the most important thing, I would say NBC, and I would also say AI. These two things are essential that they lock down. But let's look at the AI side of things. An eye-opener for me. Let's look right now. First on the list, realistic firing. Yes, we definitely need that. Better target selections for NPCs to look at player characters and react more like they should. We know that it's not anywhere close where it needs to be. They're very clunky. The interactions are very bad right now, and they definitely need to improve on that to make this a believable, especially for Squadron 42. We've experienced it a little bit in the PU, but definitely they're going to need this for Squadron 42. And you can see they're working on it right now. 1 of 3 tasks completed. Hopefully they hire on exactly who they need so that they can get this AI rolling and lock down these issues that they're having with AI. Collision avoidance version 2. We know we need this. We've seen the very messy AI movements where they're clunking into each other, spawning on top of each other, merging, meshing into one another. You know, the AI is very messy right now. Nothing about the way they move. They're always colliding into one another, or it looks anything realistic right now. So this definitely needs a lot of work on it. It's scheduled for Q1. I think it's important to the game. Obviously, Squadron 42, they're going to employ once they get this done onto the PU side. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that, where they're taking these more particular issues that are important to the gameplay of Squadron 42, and then they're going to focus on it on Squadron 42 and then slide it over to the PU. Better flight movements with AI. You know, this is interesting because we want realism, especially when we're talking about the NPC pilots. We need to see that they're flying expertly. You know, that they're not just all over the place running into each other helter-skelter. It's the same thing we see on the ground with the NPC movements. We need to see it in the air. So this is another thing focused on for Squadron 42. Very important, sliding over the PU. They have started the work. They're 1 of 6 tasks completed. That's everything we've seen so far, besides female character customization, besides the female characters and the DNA facial customization. Everything else, not having a lot of work being done on it. It is the very beginning of the year. I will give them that, but they gotta get hopping on this stuff. All right, and that's it for the AI tab. We know AI is really important, and we're hoping that Chris actually hires on the 4 AI specialists that are needed within SIG so that they can get this done, nail it down, and make AI believable. Let's go back over to the PU side of things. This is a big one. The reputation law system, the first implementation of it. Now, they haven't started anything on this, but this is something that the citizens are screaming about in the game while I'm playing the game. This is one of the biggest features that needs to be added ASAP. 3.5 having a reputation law system is essential. They need to get this out in 3.5. If this is something that is pushed back to 3.6, I think you're going to have a lot of citizens, including myself, that will be very upset. Salvage, a lot of reclaimers out there, but there's nothing to do with them. We need the salvage. It's something that's scheduled. Let's get on it. It's very important to people who are actually owners of reclaimers, and they want to be able to salvage. They want to have the ability to see what this ship can do. This is the next feature within the PU gameplay that I think is pretty interesting. Could go either way for me. I don't think it's really that important. It's endorsing player interactions with one another. I'm always a big fan of that. I don't think this is as important to put in 3.5. I would have been honestly happier if they were focusing on the reputation and law system over this. Let's head over to the Squadron 42 side of things. 11 entries in gameplay. You can tell that there's a lot that needs to be worked on. This was an eye-opener for me when I looked at this. First, you have the heat values within ships, and a little bit more than that. From the description, it looks like they're putting temperature in as a variable, which I think is really interesting. As this develops, I'm very interested in this, and I'm curious as to how detailed this is going to get. The vehicle HUD will get an update. There was a gentleman named Nimrod77, I'll put the link down below, who talks about the symbology in the UI and how it's much better than it is currently now with 3.4. I actually agree with him. I will put that link down below. It's a really interesting video he has done. Very detailed, very well thought out. And I would highly encourage people to look at that if you are very interested in the HUDs, in the UI. I know I am, with the new flight system that's planned. I mean, this is something that needs to be thought about within SIG. Updates to the vehicle radar. Yes. A lot of us have been screaming for that for a very long time. This is very cool that they're starting to work on the new atmospheric flight. I love the fact that they're looking at turbulence. I love the fact that they're making the flight more realistic. Anything that makes a flight more realistic, I think, is only a plus for the game. This is huge. The new flight model. Man, there are so many people that are talking about the new flight model right now. This has to be bang on dead perfect. The feel of flight is so important to a space simulator type experience. I know this is more than a space simulator. We all know that. But the actual flying of the ship is so very important to feel at one with your ship, just like you're connected to the ship, like you are the ship. So the flight system has to be bang on here. There's a lot of people that are currently used to the current flight system that are saying they don't want the new flight system. So you'll have that particular group of people to contend with. There's another group of people that says the current flight system is trash. What do you guys think? Tell me in the comments down below. I'm kind of like in the middle with it. I don't feel connection with the ship so much. The flight for me is not a great experience. When I compare it to Elite Dangerous, I would say that the Elite Dangerous flight experience is a much better, more fluid, more connected feeling with the flight than it is with Star Citizen currently. And I think that's one of the reasons why Chris is focusing on changing the flight model completely, because he wants people to feel connected to the ship. It is so very important to the success of this game. This is the biggest, besides network bind culling, and besides OCS being completed, and besides the artificial intelligence being, I think, the most important factors, new flight model ranks right up there as being very, very important to me. New vehicle scanning, the work being implemented right now. We know we've done some scanning here on our prospector. I've showed you a little bit of that. I think it does need a little bit of work. It looks like it'll be able to create false signatures in a couple other instances in the scanning that look interesting to me. I'm not quite sure if that needs to be put before other things, but it definitely will be an improvement. And I would say I'm 50-50 on this as to whether I think it should be something that should be focused on, for instance, before some of the other issues that we are looking at. The work as actually being started right now, we will continue to update as we see this progress. Player locomotion stairs improvement. Now we already know that it's actually fairly good right now. I mean, I'm happy with where it's at right now. Foot tends to fall on the steps. I did a couple experienced Star Citizen videos where you can see how fluid that was. They're even going to make it more fluid. I know the legs look a little wonky as you're going up and down the steps, but other than that, it looks like the feet are being implemented correctly on each stair, but they're going to improve the whole look of it. I would say that's something that definitely needs to be in Squadron 42 so the characters look fluid. This is a big one for me too. NPC Healing. Expanding the healing gameplay to allow the player to use items with healing properties like the metapen on other players or NPCs. This is for people that want to be medics. This is for people that are in the kind of like the health industry, and I think this is very important for the gameplay. Interesting that it's on the Squadron 42 side of things. Obviously going to slide to the PU side of things. This makes the gameplay more immersive. This makes the gameplay more interesting. These types of features are the features that have that kind of direct correlation with the physicality of what's happening in the verse. I think this is a very important issue, and I'm glad to see that it's being put into the Q1 implementation. Now, whether that's going to slide over to the PU right away, not quite sure, but I gather this is how things are going to work. As they get done in the Squadron 42 side, you'll see them being, you know, pushed over to PU. This is kind of cool, and obviously they'll need this for Squadron 42 because you want that realism to it, you know, players and NPCs being able to kind of hold their helmets. It's not huge. The player free look instancing, where you're going to be able to have a little bit more control of what you're looking at even with a weapon trained on something, I find that pretty cool. And player jump V2, so they're working on the jumping with each particular character. I think that does need some work, so it's good to see that they're starting it. 1 of 8 tasks completed, and yeah, I think that the jumping mechanic definitely needs some work. Okay, that wraps up things for the gameplay side of things on Squadron 42. Let's go back over to the PU roadmap. Ooh, here's the juicy stuff, the ships and vehicles. Now, we already know what my stance is towards ship sales. I think that there's plenty of ships out there right now. Like, personally, I get that this is the revenue stream, but I don't necessarily think that they could right now, in my opinion, could just not work on any other ships right now, except the ones that were already scheduled and planned on the work. You know, get those completed for the people that have bought the ships. And I don't think you should add any more new designs right now unless they're absolutely needed. We'll go over to the Squadron 42 roadmap and see, you know, what they have on the agenda and see what types of ships that they need, if any. And I think it would be interesting to see that. But first, let's look on the PU side. So first, for you 300 series owners, this is pretty encouraging news. 38 of 80 tasks completed, the 300 rework being almost halfway through. And I think this is something that you will see in Q1 being released. So this is kind of like a for sure thing. I'm pretty sure they're going to focus on getting the 300i rework done. This is another issue of contention where people are saying, you know, you're continually going back and re-updating things, and this is adding to this backlog. This is adding to the process. You know, all these reworks, you know, nice for the ship owners, not so nice for everybody wanting this game to propel itself forward, because it feels like a rehash. It feels like very sluggish, and sometimes it can add to the work. It's like reworking on something that's already been worked on. So I get both sides of this argument. The Banu Defender, a lot of people looking forward to that. Not even half done yet. They need to get busting on this, because this is something where a lot of people bought the Banu Defender and they're interested in seeing what's going to be the overall look and feel of this particular ship. I believe it'll be one of the first Banu ships in the game. The Misc Reliant Tana variant, it's their battle mode reliant. I'm curious as to this one. It looks like 2 of 10 tasks completed. Doesn't look like a lot of work's needed here, so I think we'll see this one for sure in Q1. The Misc Reliant Sen, looking at this, it looks as if they're going to be getting this out in Q1. This is Misc's Research Reliant, doing a lot of the research roles in the game that we're still kind of foggy on. Research being something that is very interesting to us on the channel. The Misc Reliant Mako, which is like the news van of Star Citizen. We talked about this a long time ago, about the news in Star Citizen and people that have organizations that are devoted to news. It's a very cool concept to have a news presence within the game, and to offer that particular news perhaps in a platform within the game would be cool, but I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon. And somehow advertising it within the game would be also very cool. We also talked about camera drones and having the ability to have much better ease of use with cameras than the current camera modeling system, and have like drones being set in different positions. These are some ideas that I think would make the Misc Reliant Mako very cool, to place different types of camera drones all over the place and have these cool different kind of camera shots. If you're a news agency using this particular vehicle, I think that would be kind of a no-brainer to me. So they've got 2 of 10 tasks completed. It will be interesting to see this ship and how people use this ship. More work being done on the Taurus, rehashing of work. P-52 Merlin improvements. You know, we were talking about this in our community about the viability of a P-52, how important it is, because we know these things get shot out of the sky fairly easy. We did tests on this. This thing's like a glass cannon without the cannon. So we have to make ships like these viable. We have to give them durability. We have to make it realistic, but we also have to make sure that these ships have a use. Okay, now let's go over to the Squadron 42 side of things. Oh, now this is really interesting. It looks like they have a total of 13 entries going out to the end of 2019 on different ships. I won't get into this too much, but it looks as if there's a lot of specialized ships that aren't ships right now, and other variants of ships that are already in the works. So we're seeing, oh, there's the Cutlass Red in Q3. That's interesting. The Javelin, that's interesting. And ooh, a Vandal Void looks interesting. A Vandal Driller. So we're seeing, oh, Vandal Kingship. Wow, so these are a lot of kind of Vandal assets that we're seeing going into the end of the year. Ooh, this gets me excited. Let's go back over to the PU side of things. So no ships in the Q1 side of things right now. Interesting. But look at all the ships that need to be done. Not as many as I thought. You know, going into 2019, 13 particular ships or variants of ships currently existing going to the end of the year. I think that's completely doable. Very, very enlightening right there. All right, and back to the PU side of things. Weapons and items. A new assault rifle, the Gemini S7-1, looks really deadly, like it, almost like a Stinger of some sorts. Like, watch out. Updating the ballistic cannon GT870 Tarantula. A new pistol. Interesting work just started. And that's pretty much it for the weapons and items side of things on Q1. It looks like they're just kind of starting the workout right here on these particular items, but I do think we'll see this in Q1. Let's go over to the Squadron 42 side of things. Okay, the multi-tool halfway through, and also a missile launcher. Like, wow. Very excited for that one. You know I'm going to show footage on that as soon as that hits the PU. So these are Squadron 42 instances where we need these particular things for Squadron 42. The multi-tool, a lot of people talking about already. I'm sure we'll see that slide over the PU somehow, and that's all we have for entries on that, on the Squadron 42 side. Let's head back over to the PU side. All right, Core Tech, we talk about how important the Core Tech tab is. every time and every chance we get here onto games. New flight model, we saw it on the Squadron 42 side of things, now we're seeing it on the PU side of things. This is something that is just essential that they get down. Very important, just as important as the NBC, just as important as the AI systems. The new flight model, we already talked about this, very important. Object container streaming, we already know this is important. They've implemented portions of this. It has made it stability and performance amazingly better for the gameplay. It was a game changer for me. It was night and day as far as my opinion of Star Citizen's gameplay before OCS and after it. I love it now that OCS is somewhat implemented. They need to nail this down. We already talked about how it's important for ARC that they get OCS done and completed, because obviously you're going to have a lot of assets needing to be loaded in ARC. OCS, a necessity. The lobby refractor here in regards to a lot of the NBC developments, a lot of the NBC tech, the lobby refractor making it easier to connect multiple servers and clients in the game sessions. These are like server issue type things. These are what we need to focus on as well. We know this is very important. 1 of 7 tasks completed. This could be something that could be shady that I could see being moved over, that they will not complete until possibly even 3.7. We'll see. Like a lot of the server type issues I'm really concerned about. We'll see as things move forward. This is going to be something they need to focus on hardcore. Parallel network jobs. This has to do with the amount of people playing in an instance. This is also very, 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 very important. They need to work on this. Nothing started yet, but this work needs to get going. They need to show us a little bit more work being put into these types of tasks, and I want to see more information on this on the ATV reviews. Projectile Manager, I think very important. The realism of projectiles in the game. Nothing started on this yet. More fidelity, hard surface shader improvements. You know, here's one thing I have to say about this. I'm fine with the fidelity now. We can scrap this. We don't need to worry about this, Chris. My opinion. Performance and optimization. We were the reason that this is in the core tech. We had said this repetitively. This became our personal fidelity here in the community. Performance and optimization was something we were screaming at the end of 2017 all the way to 2018 at the end until OCS was implemented, and now we're seeing more focus on the performance and optimization in many different ways. Thank you. This is the game's personal favorite. And lastly, organic shaders and fidelity and all that kind of thing. You know, this to me shouldn't be in the core tech right now. I mean, it's nice, it makes the game look better, but I think more things have to be focused on the actual AI and the mechanics and the flight. These are things that within the game I think are the most important things. Now let's head over to the Squadron 42 roadmap and finish up. Particle lighting, I'm down with that. Very, very ravey. Love it. We see organic shader again over here. 9 of 11. This is almost done. Water tech. Things being buoyant. I love this. I love this. I like this. I'm glad this is in Q1. Tasks needed to be done and completed by Q1. I will be reporting on this. This is really interesting to me. Here we go with the shader again. Visual improvements with asteroids. Yes, highly needed. You know, anytime I'm around Grim Hex, I always think to myself, these could be done much better. Any type of asteroid field I'm in, I'm always thinking to myself, needs to look a little bit more completed. So this is great. 3 of 5 tasks completed, over halfway done. I like it. I want to see what the new asteroids look like. I think that definitely needs to be focused on. Ooh, atmospheric effects version 2. I already like version 1, honestly. So they're going to be making it look even cooler. Yeah. Along with that, turbulence and how they're doing the atmospheric flight work that we already reviewed. I think combination of that with the atmospheric effects. Ooh, saucy. Saucy. Okay, Projectile Manager, 5 of 10, halfway through with that. Weapon effects, yes, give me some of that weapon effects. Okay, I'm down with that. They haven't started the work on that, but yeah. Why you always got to be shooting on Drake? Ragdoll improvements. Ragdoll, living in a movie. Okay, hot, John's a little cutie. Oh, sorry. This is an Aerosmith song. It's like old school. But anyway, so ragdoll improvements. So yes, so when you're getting hit or you're getting shaken around on your ship, a crash, any type of collision, they're gonna make it look a lot more realistic. Dig it. I think that's important. Halfway done. And that wraps it up. Our detailed look into the Q1 of 2019 of Star Citizen. Tell me what you guys think. Did you enjoy this? I hope you did. I know it's very detailed. It's for those hardcore Star Citizen fans, and I think this is much more important to put this particular information out there, to have discussions like these, than it is, for instance, on a board gamer video where he just goes over the whole entire year. I think that's kind of useless. You know, as a highlight thing, you know, great, but I can already get that on the Star Citizen website, you know, on the YouTube channel there. And to me, that particular information not as important as this particular information, which is why you're subscribed to the games. Thanks everybody for showing up here. Again, thank you for all the well wishes for my mother, and thank you for the happy birthday wishes. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys on the next vid.